Jose Cervantes, right? Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, that's better than most people. It says with an S, a Z.
Yeah. So Jose Cervantes, you are a wrestling official in Michigan, but you just told me, before we hopped on here, you just got a new hobby too, right?
Yeah, so I've wrestling's number one. That's the one I've always done. I've loved it. I almost did basketball actually. When I was in sixth grade, I used to dress like a basketball official.
Okay.
And then I'd take a break from doing that. And then Miss Allen, our recess lady, I love that woman. She'd always, Jose, you haven't dressed like an official in a minute. And I said, you know what? Tomorrow. That's when I was supposed to do it. But wrestling's been my number one. But now I've branched to softball and been umpiring that. And I'm a little guy, so they put me on like the U10s and U11s, so I don't got to squat down. But it's been fun.
Awesome. So, did you wrestle then in grade school or high school, or it was Ms. Allen just said you should be a wrestler? I mean, how did you get to become a wrestling official?
Yeah, so actually, my sister and brother were big in wrestling, and I'm the baby of the family of four.
Okay.
So my brother being the oldest, he was big in wrestling, and then my sister wanted to take over in it in high school. And at first, her being a girl, there was a lot of stigmas. You can't wrestle with us. And she proved them wrong. She beat up with them, and she got beat up. And she knew, hey, this is a wrestling sport. I'm not here to whine, cry. I'm here to win. I'm here to get better. So it was really cool because my brother was good offensively, and my sister was great defensively. So I really had the best of both worlds. I started in like youth wrestling, did that for a few years with my family growing up, and then seventh, eighth grade came around, did that a little bit, uh, did a little too much, or I guess the nowadays went ham, and my head went into the wall. And I got a minor concussion, but I said, you know what, this noggin, I only have one of them. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to get yelled at, beat up on. So I took a break, and then MHSA here in Michigan have a legacy program, like a lot of states are starting or have. And basically, what that allows me doing is, as a 11th grader and 12th grader, I could do junior varsity events and middle school events as long as I worked with a mentor. Then the mentor didn't have to be on the mat. Essentially, he'd just have to be in the area. So a lot of those middle school single officials, he could be there in the crowd watching, and going on like that. So I picked that up, and I found out I get the best seat in the house. I get to watch these two top athletes duke it out, and no one's in my way. If I want to get down and see his hands and what he's doing down there, is it locked hands? Is it not? Coach, I got you. Let me get down. And I'd get down, you know.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because so many people will tell you, you suck up there, and you turn and look at them, and they're way in the nosebleeds. Like, great for coming.
You feel they have a better
But
view than you do, right?
right, everybody does. I think that's same thing with, like, side note umpiring. Everybody that sits in the stands can see a baller strike over the plate way better than you can directly behind. So I feel
Yeah.
like maybe that's the better spot. Sit in the bleachers. Why not?
Yeah, and then still get that paycheck. You just are a glutton for punishment, maybe, I guess. I don't know. What's funny? Obviously, this is about you. But what grade were you in when you got that injury that made you kind of pivot into officiating?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
How old were you when you decided you ran into the wall, right? Concussion, and you decided, you know what, I'm gonna go into officiating and I'm gonna take advantage of this legacy program.
Right.
Like, were you a junior or senior in high school? What?
So actually, before I hit my career-ending injury, if you would, I was actually already officiating soccer. I was working with AYSO
Okay.
since I was 12. I've been getting yelled at by coaches since I was 12. I've been
Okay.
yelling at coaches in a business perspective way
Yeah.
since I was 12. So I've kind of, I don't know, God blessed me with a gift, I suppose. And I don't mean that to sound cocky. I'm just, tooting my horn once in a while.
No. I mean,
If no one toots it, it goes untooted. So we'll
yeah.
toot it a little bit. Shh.
Hey,
But
yeah, I like that.
it
I
was,
mean, that's awesome. I mean, I actually had a similar situation. I did not get into officiating when I was 12 years old. I don't think anyone when I was 12 would have trusted me with that much responsibility. But I actually had an injury my summer before my senior year at a wrestling camp and blew my knee out and I was done. So I actually got my wrestling officials license so that I could still have a senior year of not wrestling, but at least I could officiate. And then I did it throughout college. So it's just really interesting. And that's what this is all about, is to hear people's story about how did they get on that path and why do they do it, right? Because you just said before, people are brutal, man. Fans are brutal, right? I got some questions about that one too. I just thought that's a unique way of you getting into it, but you already were since 12 years old. You're officiating soccer, and now you're a 3-sport official. Well, do you do soccer?
Actually,
still?
5.
5.
Yeah, I do basketball, soccer, wrestling, softball, and I did volleyball for a year, but it's kind of one of those, I never got any assignments. I didn't know what I was doing, so it's kind of a perfect balance, and then I'm probably not for me.
Okay.
But yeah, it's you talk about what's got me in or a pivot. It would have been probably 5th or 6th grade was my pivot
Okay.
because, yeah, Miss Allen would jokingly smile and talk about my uniform and when I was going to wear it again. But that's all it was just a uniform at the time. I knew what I wanted to do. My sister was in the My Way program, so the youth wrestling for Michigan. She was reffing in that. So I would see her do that. I would want to do that. And the shirt that I actually wore was a hand-me-down from her from when she was doing it. And I said, that's cool. I want to do it. And so I kind of, the sanguine personality that I am, I created a umpire, kickball, assigner position for myself. And for that, I didn't miss very many days of school because I was working as a kickball umpire on the recess field. And no one gave me that job. I just did it. I tried
Okay.
football at the time, but I didn't know any of the rules, so the guys really kicked me out quick.
Okay. Yeah, it helps to know the rules, I guess. So 5 sports. This question then is going to be perfect for you because I don't know when the next time I'm going to get to talk to someone that's officiating 5 sports. But what do you think the most misunderstood aspect of being an official of any sport is to the consumer of the sport? So let's say the parents, the family, or the athletes. What do you think is the most misunderstood aspect of officiating? It could be wrestling, it could be any of the sports that we just discussed.
Right. Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's going to be I personally think the misconception that we wake up on the left side of the bed, not the right side. We're here to hurt your child on a misplay or a missed call. Like, I'm not here to say we're perfect in any sport. I've had my fair share of whoops, I screwed that up. Unfortunately, we learned together. It was your kid. I'm sorry, but I can tell you it won't happen again. Like, I mean, we're human. But a lot of parents, coaches, they're always under the impression like we need to be godly figures. We can't mess up at all. And when we do, man, they're like lions in the Bible. They're like lions in the weeds ready to jump. They're the same way. You let out just a little whiver, bam. I mean, basketball, when I started that a year and a half ago, was the sport. If I didn't do wrestling, if I didn't do soccer growing into officiating, I would have been done just because of how brutal they would conversate with you. And I remember my first middle school matchup and how disrespectful that coach was. Luckily, and in not a good situation, but she was able to pounce on me like she did and receive not big punishment, partly because as an official, I didn't get deep into the penalty progressions, or in basketball, it would have been technical violations in the process. So for me, I'm a firm believer. If someone digs a hole and you're gonna push them in, you better know how to fill it up because they're
Yeah.
gonna crawl back out of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I think you said something. I love what you said at the very beginning that a lot of people feel like officials wake up on the left side of the bed. And a lot of times in some of the stuff I get to do with wrestling events, football events, and stuff like that, when you start talking to someone, they're pretty upset. And you get it when people are like in their emotions, you got to take it for what it is, right? They're not necessarily thinking, but it's like most people don't wake up in the morning, especially officials, right? They don't wake up in the morning and be like, I'm gonna ruin this middle schooler's wrestling career today. Like that's why I'm gonna go officiate today because there's someone you know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, I think sports can bring out the best in all of us and sometimes the worst too, right?
Well, like you said, because they're not thinking. They're not thinking with thought. They're thinking with emotion. They're thinking with passion, which is great. But there's a point in a line to where passion meets kind of either insanity or even just unsportsmanlike behavior. And I think that's the hardest part for Jared is people to understand is, listen, like you can voice your opinion, great, but then we got to be done.
Yeah.
You know, because as wrestlers in one match, you're making over 100 decisions. You know, should I call this? Should I not call this? What's he doing? What's the bottom man doing? What's the top man doing? How much time have we got? You know, you're already processing about 100 decisions. So a coach will come at you saying, hey, you messed up this one call in the first period. You're terrible official.
Yeah.
Well, coach, I've actually done like over 150, decisions this whole match, and you're telling me I messed up one. So
that's a passing grade still in college.
I'm still batting a 90,
Yeah.
They don't see it that way.
Yeah. Hey, I want your opinion on this then. Someone I look up to as a wrestling coach, and I've learned a lot from, because I get to coach junior high. But they told me, I think this is the greatest advice ever. He's like, listen, if you disagree with an official, unless it's like at the end of the tournament, it's going to cost your kid, the place or whatever that next goal you need to get to. It's like, just be quiet. And at the end of the tournament, you go up and you say, hey, look, I disagreed with this call and this is why, and you do it in a respectful way. But if you go and you call him to the center mat 4 times and you're not making a point because you're upset, right? All you're thinking about is this kid could lose this match or all of this. Well, guess what? How many kids are there in a team and how many officials are there? How many mats? Chances are you're going to have that official several more times before the day.
Right.
They're not going to forget that you're an idiot at 105 pounds and now at heavyweight. Oh, he's great. That's a great guy. He didn't just berate me in front of hundreds of people, right? What would you say about that strategy?
I would say, unless, like you said, if it's going to cost you the match, if it's, hey, this rule is incorrect this way, it becomes bad time, it needs to be corrected, then heck yeah, anytime. But there's a right way and a wrong way. If you come flailing your arm, come here, that ain't going to end well for nobody. But if I've had coaches raise their hand, I've had coaches just come to the table and, 9 times out of 10 on the officials aspect, a lot of us forget to listen. We already have the preconceived notion in our mind, this coach is coming for locked hands call or starring call, but he might be having a whole different conversation in his head and he wants a clarification. I can't tell you how many times I've been to the table thinking in my head, he's mad because of this stall call. And then he comes, hey, is he locking his hands down there? I mean, it just looks like it. No, coach, but I'll watch closer for you, So listening's key, but for both ways. There's times where a coach will ask a question and then he won't listen. And then he'll ask it again. Like, I just answered that. Like, this isn't a clinic time, coach, and I don't mean to be rude, but we got a match to get to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think what you said, and I'll say it in a different way, but tell me if you agree. It's like, if you're a coach and you're going to make a challenge at the call and you're going to do it respectfully, don't make assumptions. And as an official, you probably shouldn't make assumptions either. Just go into the conversation like you would any other one, hear what they have to say, respond, and we'll carry back on with what's the appropriate action. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And then the one added point I would say is you pointed out too in the question about maybe going in at the end or after the match to at least get clarification. And by all means, I've met so many officials that are willing to, if a coach will come and say, hey, I genuinely just am curious. Like, I've been teaching it wrong, or I think it was just misapplied. Like, I'm just curious. Can we talk about it real quick? I haven't seen an official say, no, I don't. But if you come all bombarding on him, yelling on him, coming to their corner, it's a lot different, because it's a job. When we're on the match, our brains are trying to stay at the best 100% as we can give it with the sport we're officiating. But when we're off the mat, we're human. It's no different than a coach or a wrestler. When they're on the mat, they're in the zone, and so sometimes when you get somebody in the zone, it's not the best time to say, hey, can we have a small clinic? I'm curious about this. But at the end of the match, when it's all done, hey, so I can teach my wrestlers better. Why is it this way? Or why did you call it this way? Because we've had other officials do it this way, and it might be a mistake or just how he read it in the rule book that week and thinking he's switching his viewpoint. Or a lot of times these younger coaches just don't know. They see these YouTube videos. I mean, in a day and age where you can log on to something and watch and not know the credibility behind what's the person behind doing all those podcasts and videos, I'm not like shunning those videos because there's a lot of great information to learn from them. I mean, my nieces are 14 and 11, and man, they know so much more about technology and how quick you can grab things. And that's just where we're at in a day and age. So when a coach gets that kind of information, I highly recommend double check, look into the book yourself, and make sure it's something that's true and goes with the rules and the philosophy of the sport, because that'll save a lot of time at the table and a lot of confusion when you start seeing officials that use the philosophy and the rule book like a Bible, like they should.
Okay, I like that. So I want to ask you this. This is an opinion. This is probably the toughest fastball I'll throw you all the time. But every year, the national rules, they make changes, they make tweaks. Usually it's about like 5, the big ones that they're going to focus on, right? I mean, they put that out. Is that fair? Is that accurate?
Right. And
yeah.
They have like the points of emphasis that for like the 2021, and then the rules changes as well.
Yeah. So that's tough on anyone, let alone someone maybe who's even been coaching 10, 15, 20, whatever years, right? Is learning, okay, we're going to apply these a little bit differently. And usually those are the more subjective calls too, like a lot like stalling, right? And stuff like that. So you've got to love it when they make that even more ambiguous for everyone. But I have ideas, but what do you think we could do as a sport other than just ship out every wrestling program that's registered a poster that says, here are the 5 points of emphasis this year, learn them, right? Like, I don't know how many people are doing that. I know we do it and I love it because I get to look at it and I'm like, I need to learn this stuff. But I mean, what else could we do better to kind of at least get those 5 big things nailed down? Because chances are that's going to come up a lot during the season. Because if your association says these are the 5 things we're looking for, you don't ignore that, right? So what could we do to help with that?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to get too in depth, they got to do the research just like us. However, I would say, like in Michigan, the MHSA for coaches, for officials, they have like rules meetings that they have to attend. And like in previous years, not very many people have followed those. And part of it shows when you get in a match or you get into something and they're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's been posted. We've hit it. I've never heard of those. So I see what you're saying. And I agree with that because not enough people get the information. But unfortunately, if you're not looking, it might come and pass you by. But one thing I've seen, which I'm excited to see how it differs, MHSA recently just updated their registration. And I don't know if it's for the coaches as well, but all officials now can actually officiate sports until they take the rules meeting for that test. Before it used to be kind of optional. If you don't do it, you don't do it. Oh, well, you don't know what you don't know. And when you know it, you really don't know.
Yeah.
But I think that's actually a good starting point for any group is to make that mandatory to at least hit a rules meeting at the beginning or just before a season starts and have those emphases right at the beginning, because that's how if you ever open the rule books, you'll see them either in the center or the first few pages, and they're just written right there, and they're the only thing on the pages. Emphasis for this year, sportsmanship, or stalling. Stalling was a big one, and when they made the change, a lot of people were upset about it because now we got to learn to do it, and it's like there's nothing different. What they've done with stalling is allow officials a little more leeway to call it sooner. Because
and you're not deciding the match as much. The other person's deciding the match because if they choose not to, make an offensive effort or get away from the edge of the mat, it's what I mean. Before you don't make a couple mistakes, boom, you're gone, right?
Absolutely. And then on top of locked hands or an illegal maneuver, real quick, it just adds up quick. And when it was there, they didn't want to call it because at this point now, he's going to be disqualified, and it's unfortunate. But this year or this past year, seeing it, and myself, I learned it from a good official from Ohio, Tim Collins. You may know Tim Collins,
Yeah.
but he said it one night when we were conversating out at one of these travel wrestling matches, and it's call stalling with intent, not just to say, oh, nothing's happening, let's hit somebody with it. No, call it with intent. And the thing about that, which I loved, and once he said that, man, calling stalling became way easier than I could have ever imagined, because you tell yourself, okay, what's red doing? What's green doing? And if they're both doing equally and nothing, that's when you warn them, hey, action, guys, we got to move. Hey, action. And now if one does something and the other doesn't, you gave them both the warning. Now you know what you're doing. That's intent. You intended to give, let me rephrase. You intended to call stalling if present, and you gave both wrestlers the chance and opportunity to not get it called. You're not saying red, move. You're not saying green, move. You're saying action, gentlemen, or move. But when you hear a coach from the corner, you got to move, Jimmy. You got to move. What's that telling you as an official?
You never say that. If you're that coach and you're watching this, remove that from the coaching vernacular.
Take it off.
Yeah, I try to not give officials reasons to penalize the kids I get to coach. So thank you. If nothing else from this podcast, we've learned stop. You might as well just yell, "Stop stalling, Jimmy! Stop!"
Or say thing, free move. No.
Oh, that's yeah.
And I liked it because at the OAC tournament, a lot of the officials, we talked about it too. But like, I've heard it before. When you hear free move, it's not, oh yeah, I'll give him an option, see what happens. No. The rule states if he's in the movement of escaping or making a move, that's when you allow it to continue. But if he's laying down doing nothing and you call locked hand, there's no free move.
Yeah.
And you should blow it dead as an.
That's where the coaching comes in. That's where you have a new term that means free move that your kids all know, even though I know it's not a free move. I know the rule. But if I can't,
but at their age group, it is a free move in a sense if they're going to use it.
But if you teach them from a baby, if you teach them from baby on, and you hear coach say this, it just means go nuts, because nothing can go wrong, really, right? Like you're good. That's the way I look at it, right?
And that's a great philosophy from a coaching standpoint. I mean, again, you add it to your repertoire for your team, because if you use the word taco, everybody else can look at you weird, but your guy's going to be free and getting his 1-1.
Well, think about our sport, though. It's the most absurd if you think about it. So if you're just someone who's never been to a wrestling match, right? But you've been to a football game, right? And they're calling plays and they're like hiding their faces and everything. Now, granted, they're on national TV, right? But the coach isn't yelling out the play to the quarterback. In wrestling, I'm less than 10 feet away from my opponent, from the kid's opponent and the opponent's coach, and I'm yelling out all the moves that I want them to do. Think about it. That is insane. No other sport does that. Like in softball, you've got signs, right? Well, that was sign of the cross, but anyhow.
Amen. I've seen it a few times the other week, so it's a sign.
You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah, so it's just counterintuitive. I don't know, but don't get me down that rabbit hole. I got crazy ideas. I met you this past year at the divisional state tournament, OAC divisional state tournament, right? I think. Is that your?
That's the one at the fairgrounds?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we had to pivot there. What do you get to do a lot of stuff in Ohio, or are you mostly in Michigan?
So I'm actually excited coming into this year because when I met you guys, the fairgrounds was actually only my second event. I've worked for OAC. We did the one at Cedar Point, which was phenomenal. Again, you guys know how to treat officials, which is always great when you're pulling officials to do a job. I've worked with a lot of groups where they don't want to give you any money. They want to give you $50. And it's not me being greedy, but $50 doesn't even pay for my baggage to go both ways. No. And it's kind of hurtful. And it's like, I get it. As a big company or a big group, you're all for making money. You're all for pushing profits. I run multiple businesses. I get that. But like at one point, and I think Jude and I were chatting a little bit about it, but like when you want good work, good officiating, high standards, high levels, it doesn't come at a cost of a rookie cost. And that's not me saying that rookies are no better, because we actually brought a few young rookies to that Cedar Point tournament and flourished and came to the fairground. Derek was one of the gentlemen that he met. I love his officiating style. That dude just smooth on the mat. I'm just.
He had that last match of the day too. That went to overtime with that big call, right?
Yeah.
Nope, the last match. The whole place is empty. I remember that. So I remember Derek. Yeah.
It was a good time, but it's cool to see like young officials take off. For me, I had an opportunity to do it in youth wrestling here in Michigan to officiate. Again, I was 10th, 11th grader, so I was a young guy. I didn't do a whole lot of wrestling at that level, so I didn't understand a lot. And as an official, I wasn't understanding any of it because I didn't know where to be, what to be, how to call. And none of the older groups, granted, they weren't older people. They were all probably seniors just out of high school running this group. But they kind of never taught me anything. I mean, when things would go bad, they never would say anything. They'd just say it behind my back. And after a few weeks of that kind of awful officiating, I'm not here to say that was bad. It was bad. But I was learning. But unfortunately, they didn't help me learn. They just pushed me out. And that's where I kind of quit until my 11th grade year getting into MHSA. And I was still kind of reluctant on that too. But luckily, I ended up finding a mentor when I went to the meeting, and he was the wrestler assigner. So I was able to get some cool matches, some unique matches that would push and excel me. And it was kind of cool because I've read it in a book somewhere, and I don't remember exactly where, but it's people of integrity expect to be believed. And when they're not, they let time do the work. And I never fully understood that until I looked back and we were talking with a few wrestling officials, because at that point I was so broken. I was just like, well, I want to do this. No one's helping me, but they're quick to throw me out, tell me I suck basically, but they don't want to tell me how to get better. But I kind of use that fuel for my goal still of where I wanted to be. I mean, I want to be a top level official. That's my goal one day. I've had it since I was little. And the only way you do that is a lot of goals and a lot of, officiating. You're going to be right. You're going to be wrong. You got to get over it, learn the right way, and move on. Take all the good out of any situation and leave the rest. There's no point trying to carry it all with you. But before I go on that tangent, I'll finish that point. No. But so getting involved in that, a few years later, you talk about integrity. I ended up seeing one of the leaders of that organization at weigh-ins at the youth states here in Michigan, and you would have thought she saw a ghost. She was like, Jose? And, they just never expected me to reach that pinnacle in officiating because I sucked so terribly my first few weeks into it.
I think everyone does, and anyone that's when you're starting something like that, officiating, that says they didn't, might need to look at themselves in the mirror. But yeah, that's a testament, right? It's the same as anything, like building a reputation, that integrity that you're talking about, right? It takes time, and when you do that consistently over a while, people notice that, right?
Absolutely.
That's why we're talking, right? I want to talk to great officials that I can tell enjoy what they're doing. So I've seen that. Just want you to know that in the limited interactions we've had. I want to be respectful of your time, but I do have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
The other one is, if you had to have an elevator pitch to someone, maybe a junior in high school, maybe just graduated and probably is not going to wrestle in college and club or D1, D2, D3 or anything, and they're maybe considering wanting to stay involved in the sport, what would your pitch to them to at least check out applying to become a wrestling official or official for any other sport that they love, just to get back to the sport that you would think they got something from, right?
Absolutely. One of the biggest errors in that, I think, is it's not broadcasted anywhere. If I wasn't looking, I would have never known about the opportunity. I really bless God in a thin string, because that's how I got involved with it. I was able to have a lot of great coaches, mentors through through soccer when I first started. So between 12 to 16. And I loved it. Soccer probably would have been number one for me, but unfortunately it was volunteer. And at age 16, you're getting that car. Gas isn't free. You
Yeah.
find that out quickly. So unfortunately, I had to look different ways for umpiring and officiating, and that's where I found the legacy program, and it's been amazing ever since. But to someone that's not looking, or someone that wants to look and farther their sports work, whether like that is coaching, officiating, coaching's amazing. Unfortunately, when you coach, and you know this from youth or even your junior high teams, um, it's a 24/7 job almost. You know, you're clocked into coaches, other coaches, you're clocked into schools, you're clocked into kids, you're clocked into the parents, and it just always repeats. And so that's kind of daunting on some people. Like, I just can't, I don't have the schedule for that. I'd love to make all the meets, but, I don't have that. Well, perfect. You get to put this on when you're out of work and put it off. But the easiest pitch I'd tell anybody is, hey, if you've ever wanted to give back to this sport, if you've ever wanted to see kids develop and grow with a passion like you had when you were in the sports, check this out. Because it's like any other job, you'll make some money from it. You're not going to become a millionaire. However, you're going to be paid for your time to help others grow and fall in love like you did with this sport. And that's what makes it pretty stinking cool, is because you have the ability and flexibility. If you don't want to work a week, take off a whole week. You don't want to work a whole season, take off a whole season. You want to pick up extra days, pick up extra days. So your flexibility makes this really so anybody can do this. Granted, you might not get a lot of the games if you're taking off every week, but if that's okay for you, that's okay. Some people want to take this as far as they can, so getting as many as they could is phenomenal. And some people don't want to do it, but maybe once or twice. Totally fine. There's something for everybody.
So I think what I heard is check it out and then just get in where you fit in, right?
Absolutely.
Pick your story, whichever one, how much you want to do and how much you don't want to do.
I mean, it's scary when you think about it too, though, because whether it's wrestling and you hear it from a lot of coaches, it's funny. I mean, it was soft. I mean, you got 60s and older out there on an average, which I'm not knocking them. I've seen actually a 71-year-old move faster, and he taught me, and he's a great dude to learn from, but he moves out there like he's 12, and it's awesome. But he only does it when he knows he has to. He ain't going to exert extra energy if he don't got to move. Yeah. But when he's got to move, he'll be there, and you can trust it. And that's what makes it cool. But, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, we're going to be in an issue if we don't fix this problem now.
Yeah,
and
you're exactly right.
The biggest thing is letting people know about it the right way, because I'm sorry, but no one's going to log on to a website and surf through 12 pages just to get registered, just to search another 12 pages to learn they have to do this, this, and this, and go to a meeting, and now pay this kind of money. Pay money? I haven't even been to the meeting. So I think the biggest thing that anybody struggling with finding officials is to start broadcasting a way to get started. A way that, like you said, too, is plug in where you fit in. Get started any way you can. Because with the amount of officials we don't have right now, seeing these last few numbers with COVID and stuff, just in a few years, those are going to dwindle even more just because people are out of the sport because of age.
Well, think about it this way, too, though, right? So you had to we've always needed more officials. I can't speak to every sport as much as I can to wrestling, but the numbers have just been going down year after year. And there's a lot of great officials that will be retiring pretty soon. But when you got in Ohio, I should say, but when you got in, you had to take your lumps and everything just to get where you're at right now, right? But if there's an official shortage, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for people to climb that ladder as long as they put the work in so much faster, right? Because there's going to be so many more opportunities to do tournaments, dual meets during the week and tournaments on the weekends, because if there's a shortage, you're going to be in high demand, right? So it's almost like picking the right college major.
Absolutely.
There's going to be great jobs there. I never thought about that. I thought about what you said, but I never thought about how great the opportunity is right now for young people or anyone just to start becoming an official.
And it's even more important, like you said, is you're going to be able to go anywhere that you want once those opportunities start to pop up, and they will. But why not? Just like any skyscraper that you drive around when they're building the foundation, I wonder what they've been working on. It's been a year and a half, nothing's going up. You drive by it, nothing's going up. The next day, holy cow, what the heck? The skyscraper's, 30 feet in the air. Well, it's because if they spend enough time on the fundamentals, the foundation, which in officiating wrestling, I'm telling you, it's the rule books, it's the mechanics, because mechanics put you in the right spot. If it's anything for officials watching this, mechanics is key in anything you do, because your mechanics will have you not chasing them on the mat, give you a lot more energy, and you'll be able to see everything the right way and how you need to see it. But if you don't grow and learn those mechanics, you don't know those mechanics. I was blessed to know my mechanics, and I'm very stingy on mechanics because I know they work. But growing up with my mentor in 11th to 12th grade, I hated it. He's like, you're a mechanics, bro. Like, oh, darn. Tell me something good. No, I can't. Everything was bad. You were over there. You were supposed to be over there. And at that young age, I was like, man, I hate these mechanics. I love officiating. If he tells me they're important, I better, believe him and try. Little did I know my foundation was being built at that point, because now that I know the mechanics, the next step was the rule book, and that after digging into that, adding that onto my mechanics and my officiating repertoire, holy cow. I seen my own personal bests and my own growths on the mat, because like you said, we're human. We're people too. If you're a fly on the wall, that's how you should be the whole time. And I've loved that too, because our job's not to go make it a show for us.
Yeah.
Our job's to make those kids wrestle, and those kids show the crowds of whatever you have what they've been working on. And it's cool to see that, because once they are able to show everything they've been showcasing, and you as an official used everything from your foundation training to do that, it makes you smile. It makes you in your heart kind of know, like, hey, I did a good job. I didn't ruin anything, and I got kids to wrestle. That's all my job's to do.
I love it, man. Not inserting yourself into the match, right? I mean, we're the officials there to make sure that everything that needs to happen happens in the rules, and that's really what it is, right? It's about those kids. I love that. I hadn't thought about it, that it's the two competitors at that time. It's their opportunity to show whoever's watching what they've been working on. It's not about the official, right? I'm here just to make sure to give them the opportunity, right? And I think what that really, I got goosebumps right now, actually. That's weird. But I think that's what's so cool about, we need these officials, because if we don't have the officials, we can't have the level of sports that we're going to have, right? And if we don't have good, it's going to affect everything, right? Wow. That's something I got to think about. Thanks, man. Wow. This is longer than I promised you, so I appreciate you not hanging up on me yet. But I'm looking forward to seeing you at an OAC event again soon, and hopefully sooner rather than later. They did a grade school, junior high, and college dual tournament there. It was D3 colleges. It was awesome, dude. So,
really cool.
Yeah, because it was after the season too. It was like 3 weeks ago. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that in Cedar Point. So that's a little bit closer for you than Youngstown, right?
Right. They all blend in. I was going to say, I take most of my drives. If it's under 6 hours, that's a day drive. Honestly, it's under 6, over 8, it's a midday drive. I remember one time I went to Colorado, left at 3 a.m., had a beer in my hand at 7:30 p.m. Holy cow. 17 hours was a long time.
That doesn't sound
fun.
You
run out of music to listen to. But
awesome. Hey, well, I really appreciate it. And like I said, look forward to seeing you around, and thanks for your time.
Absolutely. And one thing, Jared, for you in the OC, English, but you guys really back your officials. And that's one of the biggest thing that I've seen officials leave groups for, is because when we're not back, now granted, there's some officials that are quick to throw out or quick to do these things, and I get there's gray areas and it's tough. But when you have an organization that backs their officials 100%, that's a good organization, and officials will see that, because our job's not to kick people out. But granted, there's times that it's deserved. There's times that it should have been deserved and they got lucky. And it's unfortunate, but they're just thinking with their emotions and passion. And so as an organization, you guys got to process all that, and they've paid their things. And I think you guys actually have a fee if they get kicked out, don't they?
Yeah, well, if you challenge, so if you want to challenge, there is a fee. And if you win the challenge, then you get the fee back. If you lose the challenge, then that fee goes into the scholarship fund, which is given out each year for all the scholarships that they give out to people that participate in OAC events. So that money never, it goes directly to, if that money is taken, then it goes directly into a scholarship. So it's not going to the bottom line of the OAC or anything like that. And I think that that's really important, because you just mentioned a lot of times you're in your emotions, and nothing will bring you out of your emotions quicker than money. Right? You'll start to think a little bit more logically about, okay, is the juice really worth the squeeze here? Pretty darn quick. So that's why that's in there, and it's to protect the integrity of the sport, to protect the officials too, and have their backs, like you said. So I know Jared and Jude are going to see this, and I'm happy that you say that, because that's the whole reason that we're starting this right now is we're trying to do a lot more for the officials. We want them to know, we want everyone to feel how you feel. And we want to do some other stuff too to support them in other ways. We know we need officials like yesterday. And so if there's something that we can do that might help, then we're gonna throw that spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks. So
well, that's awesome. Well, keep rocking, guys. It's really cool, and I've enjoyed the events I've been to, seeing how you guys run them. They're really great, actually. They're
I can't wait till next year, man. I can't wait till we get back to, I did pre-COVID 19 tournaments in 16 weeks. Last year, wow. I think I got to do like 6. So I can't wait, man. It's gonna be awesome. So
rock on. Anything I can do to help, you have my number. Feel free to always reach out. You're never a bother. And yeah, I appreciate you letting me come on. It was great kind of chatting with you a little bit, and it's kind of rekindled my own officiating kind of. I haven't talked or thought about that in a minute, and it's really cool, because everybody in any official you'll see is they have unique stories and how they got involved, and there's no two that are the exact same. And that's the one cool thing is everybody has their own story. So I think you guys will have some fun doing this type of podcast.
Yeah, so stick on. After I pause the video here, stick around. I can't wait to hear those stories. But again, thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it. Boom.